Hello, 2360 students. I hope everyone had a great last couple weeks. We are now moving right along into Module 5. I can't believe we're pretty much halfway through this semester. Because if you look here, we only have 7 modules and we're on Module 5. This semester is flying by. But what I wanted to do is talk to you a little bit about Module 5 and then check in with you regarding your fieldwork uh, referral confirmation forms and where we are in terms of getting into our sites or getting that filled out so you can get the green light to begin your observation hours and continue working on that inclusive practices field work. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So let's go first and start with Module 5. So with all the lessons that you have, or each module that we have 2 lessons in there. So what I want to first talk about is the overview of what I want you to get out of this module. So Module 5 is really about taking what you know about your child. So first of all, let's recap. You did the disability, you researched the child's disability. Remember, this is your case study child. And when you researched, you were able to put this presentation together talking all about the implications of and what it was and how the child was assessed and determined that they were to receive services. So we did all that. We talked about transitions and ways we could support them, resources for the parents. Then last week we did what we called transition, right? So where you were transitioning them into your classroom. So you were receiving them from another school. Well, now what we're going to be doing is we're going to figure out what ways we can support the child's goals by embedding certain activities throughout the day. That way we can make sure that they're reaching their goals. Okay, so that's going to be the overview. So it really focuses on planning lessons and teaching in the classroom. And in our first lesson, 5.1, it's really going to talk about communication and literacy skills, those self help adaptive skills like self regulation, academic areas like math, any kinds of assistive technology. So that's really going to be the focus in the first lesson. The second lesson is really looking more at the teaching strategies that you can use that's really going to support those young children. Okay. Now, these strategies are going to be directly related to the observations you'll have in your field work when you were observing, and that you will see on the QIPC checklist as well. So there's going to be that connection, that piece there that's going to be tied together. So as you're completing this, I really want you to focus on that. That way you will see that in your observation, in your field work. Now, you will be reading in the textbook. You will be looking at any of the videos I give you. You will not have an actual discussion post. You will be completing and submitting something to the assignment Dropbox, which is called the Case Study Embedded Opportunities Project, which I will go over, as well as taking your Module 5 quiz. So let's go ahead and look at our objectives. Our objectives for this module is to identify recommended practices and key elements for inclusive early childhood programs, understand causes, classification, and characteristics of developmental disabilities, and work effectively with a multidisciplinary team to coordinate appropriate educational programs involving parents, schools, and community resources. Okay, those are your course outcomes. Let's look at our module. When you're done with this module, you should be able to explain methods for helping young children with disabilities. We want them to be able to develop those self-help skills. So that's in our lesson. The other thing we're going to do is identify the language and communication needs of children with disabilities, specifically tailored to your case study child. You're going to look at describing various instructional strategies for supporting young children with disabilities in inclusive settings. Integrate individual child goals into daily routines, which is part of your assignment, and define assistive technology and identify both high tech and low tech examples that you could use when you're embedding activities for your child. Okay, so that will be our objectives. I do have focus questions there for you. Excuse me, let me go back. I do have focus questions. You can see there's a lot in the first lesson, but the second, there aren't as many, right? But these questions help guide you as you're reading along. Now, I said you will be reading in your textbook. There are 3 chapters. I know it's a lot, but the chapters aren't too long, and I feel like it's important because it's going to make sense of what you're doing with your actual assignment. So, chapter 14 is talking about independent skills, self-care, and adaptive skills. The second chapter you're going to read is chapter 16, and that's really going to talk about that speech and language component and communication. And then lastly, chapter 17 is really going to be talking about cognitive learning, which is related to teaching skills and teaching strategies. Now, I went ahead and gave you some extra additional resources here. These additional resources, you obviously with your 2 lessons, sometimes it's hard to go through them all, but I have them there for you as an addition. That way, when you do get tired, time later on, and you're not so tired, you can go back and look at them and keep them, which may help you for your employment if you're working in the classroom now with young children. So always save them um, and go back to them. Now, here's your vocabulary for Module 5 that you're going to see throughout the module. Now, what I want to look at is I said the first lesson's all about your areas of learning, your adaptive skills, teaching them independence, independent communication skills. If you have English language learners, opportunities throughout the day for those types of students or exceptionalities. Also looking at STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, and how that's important to incorporate that with young children who have disabilities. And there's a video here that I recorded all about STEM that I want you to watch, as well as a section on assistive technology. Now, the second lesson is really diving into those instructional strategies that's going to help you support the child in the classroom. And so, what would some recommended practices be for you? Because remember, we're going to embed these. And then one of the strategies I go into a little bit more depth is called pause and think. So, you're going to be learning about that. So that's pretty much what you'll do to get ready. Those are your resources available to you. Now, how are you going to be assessed? You have your Module 5 quiz. It will close on October 26th. Remember, each module is 2 weeks long. And then you'll see here, I have your assignment, but you'll see there's an extra thing here. Okay, so Module 5 Case Study Embedded Opportunity is the actual assignment, but above it you have something called Case Study Child Goes, IFSP or IEP. Now, just to remind you, IFP is for the family support plan, right? Um, if they are a certain age. Now, if you have school age children or they're public school, they'll have an IEP, which is an individualized education program. Okay, so you have both there depending on the age of your case study child. So, what you'll do first is you'll click on Case Study Child Goes, and I want you to find your specific child, and you're going to look at their goals. You're going to use this and embed them in developing your uh, activities throughout the day. Okay. So you pick only the one that you are working with. Okay. Now you'll click next and it'll take you to the actual assignment. Now you will be submitting multiple forms, but that's okay. We'll go through it. There's multiple steps and I broke it step by step for you, broke it down. And then at the end, I told you exactly what you would have to submit as well as your rubric to tell you how you will be graded. So the first one you're going to do, the first step is once you have your goal, your case study child goals, you will complete the matrix form. Okay, so when you click on it, it's going to look like this. Okay, what you're going to do is take those goals for your case study child and you're going to put them at the very top of the columns. So along these columns, you're going to put the case studies, case child goals. Now, you will have to go back to the original case study that you had with your child. If you go to table of contents and you go to case studies, you will have to go back and look at your certain child. And the reason is because let's say you have Joey. Joey's schedule is here. We're going to need that schedule because we're going to have to plug in his schedule here in the very first column. So our first column has the schedule for your case study child, and then your actual goals that you want to work on with your case study child will be here. Okay, so that's why I say you have to go back into it. Now, once you have that, what you're going to be doing is you are going to have to figure out where in that schedule you can um, work on those goals. And what we do is we would just put a check mark. I have an example here for you that I feel like would be helpful to see one that's already submitted. So if you look here, this person didn't put the actual time. I'd rather you put the time because it lets me know how much time you would actually have for that activity or that time of day. So it's helpful to put the time, but this one doesn't have it. But you'll see here, the first column, they put this child's schedule. Then they listed the child's goals. There are 5 goals listed. Okay, so that you went ahead, you can copy and paste them. And what they did, so let's look at the first one. Here's a goal for Clayton. When asked what he wants, Clayton will use words and or gestures, including refusals, no, don't like it, to convey needs and wants most of the time, 4 out of 5 times each day, and measured by recorded observational data. So where in this schedule can we work on this goal? Okay, it looks like we can work on this goal lots of times throughout the day. Okay, and then if you look at the second one, Clayton will participate in activities with a peer for 5 minutes using uh, taking turns, using with minimal assistance 2 to 3 times a day as measured by recorded observational data. So where could we work on this in this schedule? So anytime it might fit in there for you to work on the goal, you'll put an X. That's called the matrix. Okay, so you will be submitting that to Dropbox. The second step is you're going to have to download 2 forms. Um, they are embedded forms or embedded opportunities, and this is what they look like. So what you'll do first is you'll put the goal there, the activity or routine, like what it is, and then you're going to fill this out. What is your strategy you're going to use? Remember, go back to your lesson in Module 2, um, Module 5, Lesson 5.2, and look at the strategies. What kind of supports are you going to help to make sure they achieve this goal? What are the peer supports, right? And you're going to do 2 forms because you've got more than 2 goals for your case study child. So I'm going to show you an example of one that's completed. So again, this is on Clayton. You'll see we have Clayton's goal. We're going to put where we would work on this, what activity or routine in the day we would be working on that. Again, hence the matrix. You may want to use it when you're filling this out. And then you're going to tell me what strategy you're going to use to help support Clayton and reach this goal. And then what kind of environmental support will be available to him, what kind of teacher support and peer support. And you're going to do that for 4 goals. Okay, so you look goal number 1, goal number 2. Okay. And then third, you're going to tell me how are you going to monitor the progress to see that little Clayton is making sure that he is progressing and achieving his goals. So here's an example I put here for you. The activity is mealtime. Here's our goal. Henry will initiate communication to meet needs during daily routines and activities. We felt like we could embed this during mealtime. So here's the behaviors and skills exhibited. Here's how you're going to collect the data with frequency. How many times this happened? How frequently was it? Twice a day during breakfast and lunch. Obviously, that makes sense because it's during the activity mealtime. And then who's going to be the one to record the data? Okay, so your sheet would look like this, your progress monitoring. So you'd put the goal or objective. Remember, this ones you put in the matrix. What activity, like what time of the day it will be, what kind of behaviors or skills should be exhibited, how will you collect your data? Which method will you use? How often will you be collecting data? And who will be responsible for collecting the data? And then this is what it would look like here. Okay. And so that would be an example of how you would do it. And remember, all of these will be submitted to the Dropbox. So just to scroll down so you'll know, you've got to complete your matrix, your 2 embedded learning opportunity planning forms, and then your plan for assessment, right? And then here's how we'll grade you. So you will have a total of 4 forms that you will be submitting in the assignment Dropbox to go with this project. I know it's a lot, but break it down step by step. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me and I'll be more than glad to help you with it. Before I let you go, I did want to talk to you a minute about field work. I call it service learning in my other course. But at this time, you should have already So let's go to the guidelines and checklist. You should have already purchased your liability insurance and submitted proof of that. And then you should also have already completed a background check or scheduled that. And once you have those two things submitted to the assignment Dropbox, I will email you the referral confirmation form. Now, your placement referral confirmation form is the childcare setting where you want to do your 12 hours of observation. They have to complete that form stating that they're okay with you completing your hours there. Now, remember, in addition to just doing your 12 hours, once we get you in the school or the early child care setting, is that you have to complete the actual project. Okay, so there's a written component that goes with it, and this lists the things that you will be doing. So make sure before you start your hours, you read over because you will be completing a teacher interview, focusing on inclusive practices during your 12-hour observation. And then you will also be doing an observation using a checklist called QIPC. So just make sure you read it and you're aware of that. But I did send an email out if I was missing things from you. I know it says referral confirmation forms due the 23rd. That is when you should already have your okayed, you already have everything taken care of here. So that needs to be taken care of as soon as possible. If you have any concerns about your insurance, a background check, or referral form, or a setting, please let me know. I did want to preface again that you can use, I know a lot of us are employed by our early child care setting. You cannot get paid for doing your field work hours. However, if you have a childcare setting that has multiple classrooms, you could be excused from your work and go visit another classroom. So your boss would have to let you off or be able to let you observe a different classroom, but you cannot use your own classroom. I would prefer a different school, but if your employer would not let you off, then your second best option would be to go to a different classroom. So if this is a concern, or you'd like to talk to me or ask some questions, please reach out to me. All right, I hope everyone has a great couple of weeks. Until next time, take care.